a lot, but it seems warranted. We've got Matt Ashdown up next. I'm going to do a quick intro and then we can welcome Matt up to the stage. Matt Ashdown is the Director of Mission Impact at Goodwill Industries of Alberta. In this role, he leads passionate teams in both Calgary and in Edmonton that are focused on empowering adults with disabilities to achieve their career goals and engage meaningfully with their communities. Matt's expertise in nonprofit leadership is complemented by his unwavering commitment to social justice and community inclusion. He's always eager to connect with others who share his vision for a more inclusive world. Through his work, Matt champions the mission of organizations like Goodwill, which provides vital employment opportunities for individuals who may be facing barriers, ensuring that community and environmental stewardship are at the forefront of their initiatives. So without further ado, let's welcome Matt up for his speaking series.
Good afternoon, everybody. There's a lot more people in this room than there was when I got here. And thank you, Holly, for kicking us off today. I think there's some commonalities between our two talks, and we did not plan this. Actually, I had not met Holly before today, so there you will see some things, you will hear some things that sound very familiar to what she said. So again, my name is Matt Ashdown, and I'm the Director of Mission Impact here at Goodwill Industries of Alberta. And I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about myself, and then I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about some of the programs we offer at Goodwill Industries of Alberta. To start off, in preparation for today, I did a lot of reflections and lots of thinking, and I started thinking a lot about what a calling is, and this is one of those things that's fairly similar to what Holly said. So I started thinking a lot about a calling, and Merriam-Webster defines a calling as a strong inner impulse toward a particular course of action, especially when accompanied by a conviction of divine influence. Callings get us out of bed in the morning. Callings give us a reason, a purpose, and something to look forward to, something to work towards. And I think that over this next few slides, you'll see that to me, this work, doing this, supporting people with disabilities to find work, is truly a calling for me, and I'm excited to share my story with you. So here's a picture of me a long time ago, a much younger version of me. My story started back in mid-90s when I was a teenager. So I started, a friend of mine, I started with a babysitting job. I was looking after a young man with a disability. And after about 2 years of doing that, I turned 16, got my driver's license, and my friend's mom, who had hired me, sat down with me and said, "Hey, Matt, you've been doing a really good job at this, and I happen to sit on the board of directors for a summer camp that supports kids with disabilities, and I'm wondering if you might be interested in applying for it. We're always looking for good people to work there." So I decided I would do that, and started working there, and ran into two people that had a huge impact in my life. One of them's name is Victoria, and she was a colleague of mine, and she became a mentor over a number of years. She taught me so much about what I know about how best to communicate and support people with disabilities. She taught me so much about, having conviction and being curious and being somebody that, really tried to really work hard to figure out what people were trying to tell us and those kinds of things. And Alex, who Vicky worked one-on-one with at the camp, was a young man who has autism and was close in age to me. And Alex and I really hit it off. What I learned from Alex was something he did a lot better when he had connection and purpose in his life. When he did not have those two things, he struggled a lot. But when he had something to do, when he had people to see, when he had a purpose, he was in a much better space. This picture is from Rhodes in Greece, where me and Alex were both groomsmen at his sister's wedding, and it was a pretty awesome opportunity for us. So I ended up working at that summer camp for 5 years, worked at in addition to that, I went and worked at a number of different organizations that support people with disabilities in the Edmonton area. Interestingly enough, one of my practicums in college was at a Goodwill back in 2002 at what was no longer exists, but it was a Beverly location in Edmonton, and I was supporting people with disabilities to find work. And that's really where that sparked a bit of a passion for helping people to find work. Another thing that was really impactful for me in my life was coaching Special Olympics. So around the time I graduated high school also, I started trying to build up my resume, and I thought, helping out by coaching Special Olympics might be a really good opportunity to do that. I grew up playing hockey. My dad coached my whole life, and just felt like a real natural connection for me. So Special Olympics taught me so much. I got so much more from it than I ever gave to it. It was through Special Olympics that I learned the power of hard work, dedication, and teamwork. Every year, our team would come together at the beginning of the season, and we would set our collective goals for the year. We'd figure out, what do we want to accomplish this year? How do we want to behave with each other? What are our expectations of each other, and those kinds of things. Our commitment to teamwork was tested pretty dramatically at the Special Olympic National Games in Charlottetown in 2004, when we were in the middle of the competition, and Charlottetown was hit by a maritime winter storm. So it's called White Juan, named after a hurricane that happened the summer before. And it snowed nothing like an Alberta guy would have ever imagined. It snowed 100 centimeters in a day, and the winds was gusting at about 120 kilometers per hour. It was wild. The snow drifts in places were up above my head. But for some reason, they still took us to the event that day, and we were in this arena, and of course we were stranded there. So we sat there and sat there and sat there, and eventually they came up with a solution. They brought, we were traveling around on school buses all day, but they brought in these coach liner buses that had an escort from a snowplow, and they were able to get us all onto the bus, and we were able to make our way back to the hotel, which was all well and good until we got to the hotel and realized that because of the snowplow, we couldn't get onto the driveway from the hotel. So we had to form a human chain and walk through these crazy snow gusts. Is this mic okay? Sorry.
Right down here. Just press it down.
Sorry, guys. So we got off the bus, and they told us, form a human chain and make your way this probably about a half a block into the hotel. And it started well, and then it turned to absolute chaos when the chain started breaking up. But our commitment to teamwork, really, everybody was still listening, everybody was still paying attention. We managed to get everybody into the hotel, everybody was safe, and we debriefed as a team and ended up having a really good time that night, and went out and won a couple games the next day, so it was really good. Our floor hockey team got bronze that tournament. In this photo is a woman I used to coach, the only person I ever coached that made Team Canada. She represented Canada in Shanghai in 2007. Her name is Janice, and she was somebody who, she trained 4 days a week without question. Her mom would sit in the vehicle while I would train her. I was her trainer coach. And she taught me so much about what I know about drive and humility. And in this picture, because she was so awesome, she was actually the flag bearer for Alberta at the 2006 National Games in Brandon, Manitoba. I've also been heavily influenced in my life by learning about social inequality and social justice. So on the left of your screen here is a quote by Howard Zinn, who was a guy who I learned about early in my college days. Howard Zinn is a historian, playwright, author, and social activist who believed wholeheartedly that mass movements of ordinary people, throughout history, historical changes happen more through mass movements of ordinary people than it has through the ideas and plans of so-called great men. That's directly something he would say. So I really was inspired by him. And in college, I learned all about some of the atrocities that have been done to people with disabilities in history, the institutionalization movement, that happened from the 1870s till about the 1970s, and actually in some cases institutions are still operational, and the forced sterilization that happened between the 1920s and the 1970s. This photo on the left is of an institution that happened somewhere in Canada back in the day. Notice how many people are sleeping in that room. Notice how there's no decorations. Notice how there's no privacy. Nobody's wearing a shirt. I'm so happy that we have moved well beyond this. So I just think it's important to remember our history, to know that we cannot go back to a place where people are treated like this. Social justice really came to a front back in 2005-ish. There was a radio station in Edmonton that was pretty offensive. Its name was quite offensive to people with disabilities. And I was in university, and my classmates and I coordinated a letter writing campaign that amounted to, over a couple of weeks, us collecting 1,500 letters that we took to that radio station and dropped off, and were able to help that radio station see that perhaps this wasn't the best name for a program, and they took that station off the air within a day or two of us dropping that off. So then in 2006, my journey took me to work with people experiencing houselessness and extreme poverty in Edmonton. The picture behind you is of Bissell Centre, which was where I worked for a number of years. Initially, though, I was an outreach worker that was assigned to work collaboratively with a number of organizations in Edmonton's inner city. And basically, my role was to locate people, identify people, and support people who were likely eligible for Persons with Developmental Disabilities funding, PDD, and kind of support them in those kinds of things. So basically, once someone was on my caseload, I'd help them with things like getting ID, getting housing, getting their medical appointments caught up, and those types of things. And it eventually led to me becoming the first employee of Bissell Centre's Homeless to Homes program, that I got that job on New Year's Eve in 2009. Homeless to Homes was created in a response to the Premier's 10-year plan to end homelessness. We were one of the Housing First org teams. And over the next decade, we grew that program from 4 employees to about 50 at its peak. And I'm really proud to say that over the decade that I worked in that role, we helped about 2,400 Edmontonians either move out of homelessness or prevented people from becoming homeless in the first place. Many of those people were children, and I'm really, this is one of the things I'm probably most proud of actually in my life. So just wanted to share that as well. In 2019 was when I kind of returned to the disability services sector. I accepted a position at another nonprofit, a large nonprofit in Edmonton, and I oversaw about 300 employees that provided supports to about 100 individuals, mostly in residential settings, but somewhat in outreach as well. Got doing that. Of course, that was 2019, so early on in my time there, COVID-19 happened. And basically, I came to a career crossroads as a result of that. COVID meant a lot of long hours. COVID meant navigating constant changes and uncertainty about what the future looked like. And frankly, I burned out a little bit. So I had to take a step back from that role. That was the summer of 2023. But that became something that really kind of steered me in a direction back into supporting employment for people with disabilities. So when I left that role, I was thinking that my time in the human services sector might be coming to an end. So I was starting to really think about what would come next, what might be the next thing what could be the next big thing for me. But I couldn't just not work while I figured that out. So I had to accept a position somewhere. So I found a small, tiny little organization in Edmonton called Selections Career Support Services. I knew them in advance because they were one of the organizations I worked at early on in my career, and I was a board member for them for a few years in the meantime. But they were looking for a program manager position, so I stepped back into that role, thinking that it was just an opportunity for me to buy myself some time to to buy myself some time to figure out the next steps. And instead, I worked with a very passionate team that sparked in me a real passion to get back into this line of work. I learned 3 key things that really stood out to me. First, despite over 40 years of us doing this work toward helping people find employment, there are still many, countless barriers, both physical and perceived, through stereotypes and beliefs that prevent people with disabilities getting into work. I also learned that work is so much more than a paycheck. Workplaces can be communities where people look out for one another and where people can find a sense of belonging and connection. And finally, and most importantly, I learned that work should be about creating meaning for people. Our work should be about helping someone pursue personal passions and values while contributing positively to the well-being of others and to the greater community. After about 4 years, so I really enjoyed that job, working with a great team, and after about 4 months of doing that, this position at Goodwill emerged. And I looked at it, and I looked at Goodwill, and I got really passionate about what was in front of me. On the website for Goodwill, the word impact is written probably 25 times. It's incredible how much, how committed Goodwill is to making an impact. And as I got to learn more about the leadership team, about my now boss, Heather Hicks, and the other senior leadership team, I got really excited about coming to work here and that kind of stuff. So, Goodwill's vision or mission: through the power of work, Goodwill provides individuals with disabilities or barriers to employment the opportunity to enhance their lives. So I work in mission impact, so my job all day long, I'm immersed in the work of helping people find work. Mission impact is made up of 4 different departments within the portfolio, and I'm going to spend the rest of my time today talking a little bit about those. So Goodwill, Mission Impact is made up of Goodwill at Work, Goodwill Cares, Career Connections, and You Can Ride Too programs. Goodwill at Work is a group of micro-social enterprises that are designed to create employment for people with disabilities, similar to what Holly was talking about that Milk Jar does. Some examples of micro-social enterprises that Goodwill at Work has include the Repair for Good program, where folks with disabilities help restore furniture that was donated and getting it into a condition where it's a little bit more sellable. Repurposed by Goodwill, which is a fairly new program where they're turning old denim into handbags and aprons that you can wear, and they're really nice. Actually, I got one a couple weeks ago, finally. I've been wanting one for a bit, and I got home, and about 5 minutes after I got home, my 5-year-old daughter claimed it as hers, so now I have to go buy another one. And we have our flagship cleaning cloth program that we've been doing for a long time. And cleaning cloth program basically takes fabric that we weren't able to sell in stores or in our outlet store and turns them into rags that we sell in our stores, sell at car washes, and at other locations around Edmonton and Calgary. Mission Impact also has Goodwill Cares. Goodwill Cares is actually one of the programs that really drew my attention to Goodwill. As someone who had dealt with some burnout in the past and those kinds of things, Goodwill Cares really spoke to me as something that, as a program that I wanted to be a part of. So Goodwill Cares is a team of navigators that are available to all Goodwill team members to support them in navigating life's challenges. Just this past 2 weeks, a very good friend of mine actually had a heart attack 2 weeks ago, and I've been talking a lot with one of our Goodwill Cares navigators just about how to, about life and those kinds of things, just kind of dealing with that. So really, to me, says a lot when an organization puts its money where its mouth is and says, you know what, we want to be a psychologically safe space. We want to be a place that supports our folks, and we're going to actually commit some resources to that. And then come the 2 programs that I oversee. So there's Career Connections, which is a set of 3 different programs that we offer, as well as the You Can Ride Too program. So I'll tell you about Career Connections first. So Career Connections is a set of programs that receive government funding to help people find employment. And for the most part, that employment is not within Goodwill. It's at other organizations, other employers, and those kinds of things. We have some key roles within it. So we have job development specialists, who are the people that are responsible for meeting with people, finding out what they're interested in, and connecting them with jobs. So they help people actually apply for jobs and help people support them getting those roles and those kinds of things. We have employment navigators, and those folks support individuals in overcoming. They create an employment plan, and they kind of help people to overcome any barriers or challenges people have to finding work. Guide them, provide guidance, training, and resources to them. And then we have coaches. So we have two different types of coaches. One is employment coaches, and they are with the Path to Inclusion program in Edmonton. They work on site with people to help them understand what is needed to do the jobs they have, what kind of is required within that day to day. And we have employer coaches who work directly with employers to help them figure out what it takes to be an inclusive employer, help them deal with some of those fears and challenges that Holly brought up earlier. Our Path to Employment program is offered in Edmonton, and it is funded by Persons with Developmental Disabilities, so PDD. It is our long-standing program, and it's been around for a long time and has helped a lot of people. Path to Employment supports close to 100 individuals at any given time, and we help people achieve their employment goals and encourage volunteerism to those who want to get back to the world. Our Opportunity Accelerator program from down here in Calgary, and a number of people that work in that program are here today, is a 2-year contract that was launched in 2023, and it supports individuals who self-identify as having a disability. It is an accelerated path to employment program for those with disabilities who are ready and willing to find and gain meaningful employment. Services are offered. Interestingly enough, in this program, we have a lot of staff from all over the place, and because of that, we're able to offer services in over 10 languages. I've recently heard about an individual that we work with that I wanted to kind of share a bit of his story with today. So this was an individual that I learned, he told us that his whole life he grew up hearing, "You're never gonna find a job, and you'll be lucky if you ever find somebody that will be okay with you volunteering." So after some encouragement and support from his family, he eventually ended up working with our Opportunity Accelerator program. And we learned that he has a real passion for movies. So we were able to quickly, within a month actually, find him a role within a theater. And he came back recently and he was telling us that his favorite part of that job is working with the regulars that go to movies. He says that he loves being in a place where people come back to him and say, "Hey, that movie you recommended to me the last time I was here, I went and saw it and I loved it. Thank you so much for that recommendation." When asked about the support he received, he told us that we believed in him so much that he felt like he had no choice but to believe in himself. And I just thought that was such a powerful story that I wanted to share today. So our Employer Inclusion Accelerator program, which is our last program in the Career Connections umbrella, helps employers build skills that will help them to become an inclusive employer. We aim to make the world a more inclusive space. So we're out there basically sharing resources and support to help people, to help employers be equipped to be an inclusive employer. This program is offered in Edmonton and Calgary and is also funded by the government of Alberta. There's one example that we've had from this program is a child care center here in Calgary. They were actually one of the first employers that signed up to work with us. And they're really committed to both helping being a safe space for people with disabilities and a safe space for newcomers. And with the support of us, they've really grown their organization. They've had 3 different locations now and have hired 5 individuals with disabilities. And 3 of them, I believe, have been hired through Goodwill's Opportunity Accelerator program, but the other ones, we've supported them to hire through other organizations, which I think is quite powerful because it really shows that we are part of a movement. This isn't about us being first. This is about us going together as part of a collective impact with other groups. In 2023, So last year, the Path to Employment program supported 132 individuals to find work. The Opportunity Accelerator, keep in mind it just opened in 2023, supported 42 individuals. And the Employer Inclusion Accelerator supported 44 businesses, both in Edmonton and Calgary, and those businesses hired 34 people. The last program under the Mission Impact portfolio is You Can Ride Too. And this was another one that, this is another program that really spoke to me when I was going through the interview process. So You Can Ride Too aims to remove barriers to cycling for children of all abilities. It has a couple of programs that it does to do that. The Borrow a Bike program, for example, loans bikes to kids so that they can ride them. Either for the summer months, they loan them to them and they keep them at their house, or during the school year, they have a Bikes in Schools program where kids with disabilities can get a bike in their school and they can kind of use them in the gymnasium and stuff. Their goals are to make cycling fun for everyone. And why this program really stood out to me is my son Kingsley, he's in grade 3 now, but when he was in grade 1, he was in a class with a young man named Carter. Carter received an adapted bike through You Can Ride Too. And Kingsley came on a regular basis, before I even knew what You Can Ride Too was. Kingsley would come home and talk about how he got to hang out outside at lunch and ride this bike with Carter. And he'd get to hang out at recess and ride and help Carter ride his bike and those kinds of things. Carter, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but the memories Kingsley has of being able to ride that adapted bike with Carter mean the world to him and mean the world to Carter's family. And you know, I just really thought that was a pretty awesome story to share. So I'm starting to wrap up now, but I do want to say that while we've come a long way, we still have a long way to go. I dream of a world where people with disabilities, where inclusion is something that is just the normal, is normal across all employers. Where organizations like Goodwill and other organizations like us either don't need to exist, or the type of work we do to drive employment, drive inclusion in employers looks very different. And I would encourage everybody to get involved. You can do that through donating to Goodwill or purchasing at Goodwill so that we can use those profits to drive our mission impact work. You can do that by, if you're an employer, hiring people with disabilities, or if you're somebody that has a disability or knows somebody with a disability, connecting them with an organization like us or another that can really help them along with that. So thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
We are going to try the 2-mic system again. I'm going to come over here because I think it's the magical spot. Thank you so much for that presentation, Matt. I thought that was wonderful. A couple of questions rose in my mind while you were presenting. One of them being, well, first of all, I just admire your passion, and it was really interesting to see how you and Holly both kind of had a story from your past. I'm going to come over here. A story from your past that connected you to really caring about people living with disabilities, and that kind of charted your path forwards, both of you, in terms of entrepreneurship or employment or your careers. Now, what would you say, how do we make people care more if they do not have that personal story, if they do not have that connection maybe in their youth or maybe along the way? Someone walks in here and says, why should I care? What would your answer be to that?
You know, I think through creating spaces where people can interact, where people can create those opportunities to have those conversations, people can learn. You know, folks with disabilities really aren't all that different than all of us. Folks with disabilities have a lot to contribute, and in many ways can give so much more than many others. So I think that really by the process of having more spaces where people can make those connections, there will be more opportunities for people to do that. I can't sit here and lecture everybody and say, you need to hire people with disabilities and you need to be inclusive. But by creating those spaces where we're kind of creating an ecosystem, creating an environment where people can flourish and find those sparks.
The sparks, we're gonna bring the sparks throughout our whole life here, Holly. And one thing I wanna say too is, I love the way you present in that it's not, you know, this savior thing, it's not charity to give this job to somebody with a disability. Elaborate on just what can come of being a more inclusive hiring space and how that can benefit employers and people in the hiring process. What comes from opening up the space?
I mean, Holly listed a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's so much positive in terms of workplace culture, in terms of, you know, people feeling connection and those kinds of things. I've learned over my career that when we include people, it brings people together. It creates opportunities for people to do well. And I think, yeah, I think that's yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you mentioned when you were with the organization helping people who are unhoused or experiencing homelessness. That's one of the things you're most proud of right now. With Goodwill, big question. What's one of the things you're most proud of right now within the Goodwill organization?
So yeah, actually only started about 7 months ago, so I'm still learning a lot and those kinds of things, but I just really feel like we've made some huge traction around supporting folks with disabilities. I did not say this in my talk, but Goodwill is, I understand, one of the largest employers of people with disabilities in the province, and we've created spaces where not only are we doing that, but through our Employment Inclusion Accelerator, we're able to kind of share some of the wisdom we've gleaned over the years with other organizations to be able to move that agenda forward. I work with a great team of people who, you know, make it really fun to get out of bed and come to work with every day. And Goodwill has been a place that really, frankly, gives a shit about its employees and you know, enjoy, and it's been a fantastic experience so far. So I'm looking forward to coming back here in a couple of years and talking about some things that make me proud to work here, but some more things that make me proud to work here. But it's been a fantastic experience so far.
We love an eloquently placed swear. I mean, when it's appropriate, it's appropriate. I got to hold you up for one more because as you're talking, just more questions are coming to mind. But as a community, sometimes we can talk and talk and talk and not always put actions behind our words. So what would be the first step you would say as someone walks out the door and they're considering, you know, employing some of what you said or some of what Holly said? What's the action?
You know, I think, I guess depending on where you're at, our Employment Inclusion Accelerator program, for example, has these lunch and learns regularly. So you could sign up for one of those right away. Check out our website for more information about that. But I think just really, you know, kind of getting involved. It's DEAM month, so there's events many times over the month and opportunities. So thank you.